Hey everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap Real Housewives of Atlanta Season 9, Episode 17, which was titled Aloha and Goodbye. Before we get started, I have a quick question. Is it a so-called friend's place to throw a surprise divorce party, especially when she doesn't know how you really feel about the divorce or that you're even divorced already? But we'll get to that later in the recap, but think about that. I totally forgot that Phaedra and Kenya called themselves friends or trying to become friends again, but they were out there on that tennis court just wasting time and giving us comedic relief. Like, from the outfits to the missed balls, it was just a calamity of errors. But I'm glad that Phaedra says that she heeded Portia's warning about Kenya not being a true friend and that she needs to have her back. But by the end of this episode, we were wondering if maybe Portia was talking about herself. So Cynthia and Peter, they need to go ahead and get back together. Cynthia, she acting all horny, but she knows she wants her some Peter real bad. And then why is it that the person just really seems more appealing after you decide to leave them? Is it because the stress is like released off of you and you're no longer stressed out about the issues of the relationship? But the two of them just seem to be like in a happy place, and I guess that's a good thing. And so then she gives Peter a birthday present, and when he opens it up, it turns out to be a blinged out Bible. And I'm thinking, okay, should he turn to First Samuel and there's some like nude pics of Cynthia in there? Because I totally did not understand the symbolism of her giving him that Bible, and Peter seemed to didn't understand either. But who knows, maybe when it's all over, said and done, they can be friends with benefits. So Candy and Todd have planned a special dinner for Peter's birthday, and Candy called it a Todd Tucker production. And I'm thinking, what has Todd really produced that was successful? So let's see how this party turns out. So the theme of the party is supposed to be a Peter roast, which is a play on a pig roast. So instead of roasting a pig, they're going to roast Peter. So Bob shows up at the table and he's talking about him and Sheree had a flashback of hatred, and he doesn't know if she's going to be coming down for the party. And then, Bob is kind of like, doing like a little woe is me routine and, trying to get sympathy from the group. But then no sooner than they're kind of like, feeling for him, does he turn around and say that Sheree may have walked into a volcano. I'm like, Bob, get yourself some mental help, because this flip-flopping all over the place just ain't making no kind of sense, and it's not looking good for you. Sheree finally shows up at the table and she's playing Debbie Downer, and Bob is struggling, to look at her. So they're sitting like across the table from each other and he's doing all like this here. And I'm just like, what did Sheree ever see in Bob? It had to be, people fall in love with people who aren't all that attractive. But I'm just thinking, like, was it the money or did she really, really love Bob? So everybody at the table is asking her, is everything is okay? And, she acts like she's about to cry and says that, she doesn't want to discuss it with the guys at the table. So they were pretty much like, okay, well, this is Peter's birthday party, so you're going to have to table that nonsense until later. But right now, we're going to have a good time. So now we get to the roast part of the evening, and these jokes are failing miserable. And when Portia got up there, she made some like sexual joke about him and Cynthia. And Peter was like, no, he would want to take Portia to bed. And just like, do everybody want Portia? Do all the men want Portia? Because they just be taking it too far. So Peter said that if he was doing the roast, he would slaughter all of them. And then Cynthia gets up for her turn, and then she wants to like give a speech. And everybody's looking at her like, girl, you're supposed to be taking digs at him and making jokes. But I don't know how they were like coming down on Cynthia, even though she kind of like killed the mood when their jokes were as bad as they were. But Cynthia started talking something about Peter and how he used to love to brush his teeth and he'd get all back in the gums and everything. I just don't know where that was going. So the roast was a failure, and I guess now we know why Todd Tucker Production is no longer in existence, and he's now calling himself a general contractor trying to open up that old lady gang restaurant. So here comes Bob the comedian, and so we're thinking that it's finally about to get popping. But then they cut the camera, they cut the scene, so we never did get to hear the jokes that Bob was going to tell. In the next scene, Kenya is meeting with an event planner because she's going to throw a divorce party for Phaedra and Cynthia, which I don't know if that's a good idea considering neither one of them are, Phaedra claims that she's officially divorced, but she hasn't, I don't think she's told anybody but Portia. And then Cynthia hasn't signed her papers yet. And this is why I asked the question at the beginning of the recap. Is it your place to throw somebody a surprise divorce party when, I don't know where Kenya was going with this, but we're going to see how it works out. So then Candy has planned like a night out on a boat. So they finally get on a yacht and go out on the water, even though it is like hurricane force winds going on and they blowing all over the place, got to be blown off the dock as they're walking up to the boat. So Bob tries to apologize to Sheree and tells her that when he invited her to the jewelry store, he wasn't going to propose or anything. He was just trying to let her know that he appreciates her and he was sorry, for what happened in the car ride out to the water. And so she says that he wasn't taking things serious and brings up the time when Bob left and he was gone for 6 months. And I guess it was around the time when he was talking about in the last episode about they were in the car and that he could have slammed on the brakes and she flew through the windshield. So she brings that up and she tells him that when he does things like that, that it's really mental abuse and that he shouldn't be joking about things that were painful to her from their past. So Bob says that he is remorseful, but he's not going to slit his wrist trying to prove it because it seems like that's what Sheree wants. And then Sheree starts with the tears, and how the two of them need to separate and just go their separate ways. And she was a fool for thinking that Bob had changed. And I'm just thinking like everybody's on the boat trying to have a good time. And these people just find the most inappropriate moments to have these like mood-killing conversations. Like, say that for when you back in your hotel room and in the privacy. I mean, the cameras can be there, but don't like ruin the trip for everybody else. And then the thing about trying to get other people to apologize, number one, I never want someone to apologize to me if I have to tell you that you owe me an apology, because then I know it's not sincere. And even if the apology is sincere, when you tell somebody that you hurt me and you owe me an apology and I expect you to apologize to me or I expect you to show remorse to me, it's like I heard a pastor out of New Jersey, her name is Hilliard is the last name, I can't think of her first name, but she was basically saying that when you do stuff like that, it's like when do you decide when the person has apologized enough or when they're remorseful enough? Because if it's not coming from them sincerely, if it's not them saying, hey, I think I owe you an apology, then the apology is never going to be good enough. And so I think Sheree needs to let it go. Let Bob apologize in his own way. And if she doesn't think it's sincere, then just keep it moving. But to be arguing with somebody about whether or not they have apologized enough or they're remorseful enough is really just a waste of your time. And it's only going to make you feel worse about the situation and hold on to the bitterness that much longer. So the rest of the crew is trying to figure out, what's going on because they're up on the top deck and Sheree and Bob are below deck in the cabin. And so they're thinking that, Bob is really still in love with Sheree and wants things to work. But then Sheree is saying that she's done and that there's no hope for the two of them to get back together. So the winds become way too much for everybody and they head down into the cabin where Bob and Sheree are. So the two of them decide that they're going to put on the good face and, try to enjoy themselves and laugh and get along so that the others, they don't ruin their time and other people don't start asking them questions. I did, I'm done is the theme of the divorce party. And Candy arrives first and points out that she can't believe that Phaedra and Kenya are not closer than her and Phaedra were. So Candy, if you want to be friends with Phaedra, then just say you want to be friends and maybe Phaedra will be your friend. And so Sheree comes in and she points out that a divorce party should be given when the divorced person is ready and that this may not be a good idea. And then when Cynthia arrives, she says that she doesn't want a divorce party and becomes emotional. But Cynthia's a team player, so she's going to go with the flow just for the sake of peace and harmony. So the guys go out for drinks, while the ladies are having this party, and they want to know if Peter and Cynthia have had sex, but Peter lets them know that they have not, and that it's been 9 months since he has made love to Cynthia. So like I said, I wish those two, maybe they can just be friends with benefits, but I always liked Peter and Cynthia together. But maybe the whole marriage thing with him, I think the TV show, and let me say this. When these people on these reality TV shows and their marriage starts to be affected, I think it's time to get off the reality TV show and work for what you really want. And to, because the divorce rate on like all the reality TV shows combined, the divorce rate is very, very high. So I think that these couples need to learn from the couples before them that when things start, affecting your marriage, that it's time to get off the show, because that's more important than any money that you're making, because you're not going to be on these shows forever, but you may be alone for the rest of your life. Back at the party, Kenya is trying to explain to pin the balls on the guy. And Cynthia, she seems to have no clue about the penis and the balls and where it's supposed to go. And she said something about she thought maybe they were supposed to pin it on the guy's butt, which I didn't understand because it was a frontal photo of the guy. So why she was thinking that? So, Kenya and Candy were looking at her like maybe she's just been sexually deprived for too long. But, Cynthia says that, with all that's going on, with the sexual fluidness, that she didn't know what to think about the game. Phaedra finally arrives, and when she looks around and realizes what's going on, she says that she feels sick. And so Phaedra's not having it and won't even take the sash from Kenya. Oh, that was another thing. Kenya had a sash for them that said bride to be. And so when she gave Cynthia her sash, Cynthia said that she didn't want it and she felt uncomfortable wearing it. And I think she actually ended up cutting it in half. So then Phaedra comes in and she won't even take the sash from Kenya. She's looking around. And so as the ladies, they're playing Kiss the Penis, where they had like an anatomy of a man and then they had to be blindfolded and they're trying to kiss where the penis would be, I guess, if they bent down. Okay, I don't know. So anyway, Phaedra says that, they're making a mockery of marriage, and she walks out the party. So Kenya questions, whether Phaedra was really sick, and Portia lets the ladies know that Phaedra was upset. And then she reads a text message that Phaedra had sent to her, and the message was stating that the breakup of a family is not something to celebrate, and that Kenya, of all people, shouldn't be throwing her a divorce party since she never respected her marriage. And she starts talking about, all the chaos from a couple of seasons ago where Kenya was flirting with Apollo, and then there was the issue about whether or not Kenya tried to hook up with Apollo in LA or something like that. But anyway, she said that Kenya was the last person that she wanted throwing her a divorce party. So of course Kenya is offended that Phaedra brought up, the past situation with Apollo. And Portia, says, well, I'm going to check on Phaedra, and so when she goes in, she's like, girl, why didn't you give me the eye when you got ready to leave? Because I would have left with you. And then Phaedra says that she hasn't told anyone that she's divorced except for Portia, and that she doesn't want these ladies in her business, and that, that Kenya had a lot of nerve throwing her that party. So then the doorbell rings, and it's Kenya. So Phaedra tells Kenya, it was tacky to celebrate her children losing their father, and Kenya doesn't get it, wasn't, her place to throw the party in the first place. And she tells Phaedra that, her text message to Portia was trifling and that she, didn't appreciate it. And Phaedra says that she doesn't blame Kenya for the breakup of her marriage, but Kenya played a very negative role, during the time that she was married, and showed, total disrespect, to the fact that Apollo was her husband and the way that she kept flirting with Apollo. So, of course, Kenya, she's getting all indignant and it's like, well, I didn't break up your marriage and, I had nothing to do with that. And so, Phaedra was letting her know, I'm not saying you broke up my marriage. I'm saying that you were inappropriate in the way that you interacted with my husband. So I don't want you throwing me a divorce party. So the two get to going back and forth, and Kenya's spewing, her typical self-righteous nonsense like, everybody, and I noticed this when she was in her confessional, she said, she always says, these ladies, like she's not one of the ladies in the group, that's carrying on the same way as she's blaming everybody else for carrying on. And so at one point, Kenya raised her voice at Phaedra, and Phaedra had to tell her to bring it down a notch, and Kenya kept running her mouth, and then Phaedra lets Kenya know that she can leave at any moment now because she's not going to sit there and deal with her disrespect. So Kenya, throws up the restoration service and, telling Phaedra that it was really a joke because, here Phaedra is not giving her a chance. And Phaedra's basically like, I said what I had to say. I didn't want you throwing me a party. I don't think it was appropriate for you to throw me a party. So then Kenya says, well, can we pray together? And I'm like, girl, who wants you praying for them? Like if I was in a dying, in a fire about to die, Kenya, I would not want you to pray for me. Because you would probably, like in the back of your mind, you would be like, I hope she burn up and go to hell. Like, you just are not trustworthy. So Phaedra was basically like, Jesus, take the wheel and get this girl from up out of here before I hurt her. So she refused to pray with Kenya. And then Kenya, tried to throw shade at Phaedra's beliefs. Like, she's all phony and she's not real and not a Christian. And then she said something about, she's sure there's a Bible in the room, but the Bible probably has blank pages or some ignorant mess like that. But Phaedra stayed cool as usual. And then as Kenya was going out the door, she belched. I was like, okay, Phaedra, do you, girl, do you. So back at the party, Candy and Cynthia, they discuss Phaedra's reaction and the text message, and they are surprised that she reacted the way that she did and that she, got up and left. But Cynthia says that she can understand her not wanting to do the party, but she thought that she would have at least stayed and tried to enjoy herself. So Portia returns to the party and for some reason felt the need to reveal that Phaedra's divorce is final, which was not her place to do, especially since Phaedra had just said 5 minutes earlier that she wasn't going to tell the other women that the divorce was final because it was none of their business. So Candy is shocked and she says that Apollo and Todd talk all the time and that Apollo has not mentioned to Todd that him and Phaedra are divorced. So I don't know if she was implying that Portia was lying about the divorce or that Phaedra is lying about the divorce, but I'm sure it'll come up later. And then thankfully the guys finally showed up and lightened the mood. And that was pretty much it. One thing I was really shocked, they were showing the previews for next week. And I'm like, my God, when is this season going to end? So I was trying to think last year might have been 20 episodes. So we're on episode 17. So let's wrap this up real soon because it's kind of getting old. Oh, and also, did you guys hear that they have submitted contracts to Kim and Nene for next season? So they're just waiting to see if they accept the terms that Bravo is offering them. And then I'm wondering if the two of them come back, does that mean somebody gets to leave? Because I'm really ready for Kenya to get off this show. And then on the previews for next week, why is Matt back on this show? Like, God, please let that relationship die out. And I need both of them off the show. So maybe that's who Nene and Kim will take their place. Oh, and then Peter did say earlier that he was happy to be a part of the trip because this was probably going to be his last vacation outing with the crew. So that was kind of sad. So anyway, what do you all think? Were Kenya's intentions good or was she just doing too much too soon, especially since neither lady revealed to her that their divorce was final? Leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel. And you can do all of that below. And I will talk with you guys later and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.